Oye, mi gente, you know who this is. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. These are things that are really troublesome and they cause a lot of friction. Generally, for people that are living with their family members or their partners or roommates and things like that. Negative symptoms are things about a person's character or personality, we could say, that should be there. Like, for example, a person that does not have schizophrenia, they have drive, they have zest for life, where they want to get out and do things like go to work, go to school, hang out with their friends, go dating, go to the amusement park or whatever, just really engaged in life and doing things and have a zest and a drive. Well, people that have schizophrenia sometimes experience negative symptoms, and that particular thing that affects your will to do and your ability and your drive is called avolition. And that's why a lot of times you may notice a person with schizophrenia just sitting and maybe just watching television, sit there and watch television all day or surf on the computer, seemingly have no interest in doing anything much. Or if they do have an interest, maybe something real limited, just going walking or just riding their bike, or going skateboarding or something, but no real actual interest to engage in the level of life that maybe would be appropriate for someone their age, And it's not just limited to age appropriate things, it's just the drive, period. It's really hard to go through, and one thing that I have noticed, and it's not helpful, you're just beating a dead horse, really, to try to force and berate somebody with schizophrenia that has avolition. Now, what I will say about that is a thin line. What is really helpful is for a person with schizophrenia to have some sort of structure in their life. If you can begin to encourage your loved one, not forcefully, not berating them, not trying to, make them feel bad, but just encourage them, like, would you like to do so and so, or I would like to go with you, or let's do this, Never hurts to ask. And maybe eventually they'll start to come around, depending how ill they are. It just really depends. Each person is going to have a different experience. Some people may be sicker than others or have more problems with their symptoms than others. But eventually this person may begin to come around and they can start to, get some interest in life. They may not get back everything that they had. Because I know for me personally, it's really difficult to get started and to get things done. It just seems like there's no interest and it's like really difficult. But that's one of the things, again, depending on how ill you are, that if you can begin to push past those thresholds of not wanting to do things, then you can maybe kind of get yourself going. But it's really difficult, a lot of times. And so I want to say to family members and partners and friends of people with schizophrenia, if you see this behavior in your loved one, just try to be a little bit more compassionate. No, it's not cute to see a grown adult just sitting on the couch all day long. But there's a reason for that. And a lot of people mistake that for laziness. But it is a feature of the illness. Because think about it. But a person, like I said, that doesn't have schizophrenia is just the opposite in many cases, alright? Another thing that you'll really notice a lot in terms of negative symptoms is that, and this goes right along with that, this is called anhedonia. That's when not only they don't have the drive for it, one of the reasons there's no drive because it doesn't give them pleasure anymore. Schizophrenia is such a really horrible illness because it takes away your ability to get pleasure. Not only do people without schizophrenia have a drive to do things, to go with their friends, to go out to movies, go to dinner, and go on dates, but they enjoy those things. Can you imagine if you don't have a desire to do things and just it doesn't appeal to you? and maybe it were things that you really, used to like to do or whatever. It's just no appeal to it. It takes away the joy of it, and without the joy, there's no interest. And so the drive and the joy, they all go together. So again, I want people to understand this so that they won't come down as hard. And it's really frustrating because a lot of families have gotten into fights and verbal fights and verbal altercations, and thinking the person is just shiftless, and doesn't want anything. It's a part of the illness. And initially, when a lot of drugs came out, psychiatric drugs, they thought there would be much more promise in terms of negative symptoms affecting these areas where people just don't want and have no desire to do things. But it hasn't been that way. I think there's some drugs now that are starting to show some promise, but we've still got a ways to go in terms of these things. Another thing that you may notice sometimes with a person with schizophrenia, you may talk to them and they may not have much to say at all, or have a very few words. That's called alogia. I never could say that word right, but it's ALOGIA, I believe that's how it's pronounced, or spelled rather. And that's where sometimes you just won't get much conversation. Again, another feature of the illness. Person is not necessarily, not trying to shade you, not trying to be brand new or whatever. It's just a feature of the illness, and it's very, very horrible what it does to people. There's another thing that I need to tell you. I'm trying to think of this other feature. Oh yeah, I got to tell you about this. Sometimes you'll see, in terms of people that have schizophrenia, maybe you'll be talking to them and you'll see basically no expression or very limited expression, and maybe something really serious could be going on, or something happened serious, and you're talking to them and they don't really respond or show you any kind of, give you nothing, no kind of reaction, sorrow, emotion, sadness, or whatever. That's called blunting, where a person cannot express these things. Now, it's needful that I say that, because I have that at times myself, and it doesn't mean that the person isn't feeling a response to what you're saying, but it just may not be able to come across and register, in the person's face at that particular moment, And so these are things that we just really need to be more aware of, because there's so much misinformation out there about schizophrenia. I get so tired of people saying, oh, they're lazy, they don't want to do anything, they don't blah blah blah, or whatever. Can you imagine if you got an illness and it just slowly begin to rob you of your beautiful traits of who you are? You know what I'm saying? And it's different a little bit for each person. I'm not saying each person is going to have a fine line. Schizophrenia is really like a constellation of different illnesses, and it just, each effect can be a little bit different on each person. So just kind of be aware of that, and it causes suffering for the person too, if you're trying to push, and they just have no interest or desire, and that causes, like I say, a lot of stress when we do that. Try to request, try to encourage, and give it patience. If a person hurt themselves physically, they broke their leg, would you try to get them to go running? We got to be willing to give the same consideration to mental disabilities that we do to physical. And this pushes me in line of talking about residual schizophrenia. If a person, for a long time doesn't get an overabundance of hallucinations and delusions, and a lot of those kind of things going on, and a whole lot of cognitive stuff going on, and just say maybe they begin to mellow out, and they just maybe have kind of like bizarre thoughts or strange thoughts, and maybe they may get a hallucination or or delusion or false belief, from time to time that may run maybe a couple of months, but it's nothing really pervasive. They can still function pretty well. They can still basically, take care of themselves moderately well, but they have these negative symptoms that we just discussed, and nothing else, new or really intense or really that's disabling comes about. That person can be known or categorized as somebody with residual schizophrenia. In other words, the schizophrenia is still there, but it's not real debilitating, So you just have different ranges with schizophrenia and how it can affect people. But that doesn't mean the person isn't still ill, And one thing about it, stress can really, really do a lot to aggravate the illness. So, like I say, we've come far, but we've yet far to go, in understanding schizophrenia and living better with it. And structure, for many people, is the best thing. It will vary for each person. Definitely, if you're a loved one or you have schizophrenia, reach out for help. Your local mental health center. If there's one in your area, and connect. Try to get with groups, online communities, and just reach out for support. This is an illness that you really need others to be there for you, family, friends, if possible. And sometimes, people that you don't know can be wonderful support in terms of groups and a counselor and therapy and things like that. And for some, medication, is a good staple to go along with, but it just depends. But this is the basic thing that I want to say right now about it. So anyway, live and love, mi gente. Te quiero. Negative symptoms are things about a person's character or personality, we could say, that should be there. Like, for example, a person that does not have schizophrenia, they have drive, they have zest for life, where they want to get out and do things like go to work, go to school, hang out with their friends, go dating, and maybe just watching television, sit there and watch television all day or surf on the computer, seemingly have no, interest in doing anything much. Or if they do have an interest, maybe something real limited, just going walking or just riding their bike, or going skateboarding or something, but no real actual interest to engage in the level of life that maybe would be appropriate for someone their age, And it's not just limited to age-appropriate things. It's just the drive, period. It's really hard to go through. And one thing that I have noticed, and it's not helpful, you're just beating a dead horse, really, to try to force and go to the amusement park or whatever, just really engaged in life and doing things and have a zest and a drive. Well, people that have schizophrenia sometimes experience negative symptoms, and that particular thing that affects your will to do and your ability and your drive is called avolition. And that's why a lot of times you may notice a person with schizophrenia just sitting. Oh yeah, mi gente, you know who this is. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. These are things that are really troublesome, and they cause a lot of friction, generally for people that are living with their family members or their partners or roommates and things like that.